In this week's chapter, we are going to explore selective mutism. It's a really interesting topic, and of course, it brings in so many different aspects of children's behaviour. If this topic is of interest to you, then stick around because you're really going to enjoy this. Hello, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today. And I'm very pleased to be able to welcome Nora Pettik. Lovely to see you.
Hello, Mary. Thank you for inviting me.
I am very just so excited to have you here, Nora, because you do so much with homeopathy. And am I right in thinking that you're based in Bristol in the UK at the moment?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, yeah.
But you didn't do your training in the UK, is that right?
Yes, so originally I'm from Hungary and in Hungary back in the time when I was trained, there was no training for non-medical homeopaths.
Okay.
So it was quite difficult to find someone who trained me, and basically I did it as an apprenticeship. So my teacher was Laszlo Bona, and I was sitting there as an apprentice with him while he was taking the cases, and I saw the whole process unfolding. And after each client, he also explained me how he was choosing the remedies, how to repertorize. Repertory is the book that we are using to find remedies from the collection of symptoms. So so it was quite different and interesting. And later on, with the group of apprentices, we founded an association, and and we reached out to Marcus Fernandez, and we brought CHE to Hungary actually.
Oh, wow.
And with the first year of students, we went back to the classroom,
Yeah.
and we took the exams, and that's how I got my qualification. But at that time, I was already practicing. I was quite experienced myself when I did my training.
Wow. Okay. What an interesting journey and what a lovely way to learn.
It
Um,
was it was exceptional. It was really good. Yeah.
so today we're going to be talking about children's behavior and perhaps selective mutism as well. So
Yeah.
tell me why. Tell me why this area is of interest to you.
Um, so I started to work children just because I had small children. I knew many moms who were interested in homeopathy. So these were my first clients who came to me, and they referred um, me to each other. So most of my clients now are children and mothers, and and many of them have behavioral issues. Many of them are neurodivergent, struggling with ADHD, or on the autism spectrum, and and I've got some clients with selective mutism. I didn't even know that it's not a common thing because they were referring
Yeah.
kids to me. So I've got some, and then after. Actually, a few months ago was when I realized that it's a rare um, condition. So, do you want me to talk about
Yes.
selective mutism?
Yes, let's.
So, it's selective mutism means that this child can speak. Sometimes they are very chatty in in some settings, but in certain condition, they wouldn't say a word. So, for example, they speak at home. They can express themselves sometimes very, very well, with a huge vocabulary. But when they go to school, they are not talking at all. Sometimes they talk to certain people, like one student or one teacher, or they are only whispering to someone, or or they can use sign language because they learn that so they can express themselves, but not with speaking. Um, yeah,
It's really
and normally there is a huge anxiety behind this.
okay, okay. So that was going to be my next question. Is it children? So anxiety and confidence.
Anxiety. Yeah, so they are not simply shy, they are not simply stubborn. There is a lot more going on, and it can obviously get better and worse. For
Mhm.
example, in the UK, in primary school, they get a new teacher each year.
Yes.
So I have seen this many times that in September they don't speak, and by the end of the school year they start to speak, but next year
Uh,
they don't speak again. So
it
yeah,
takes that long to gain the confidence and to
yeah,
feel comfortable enough to talk, and then the whole system.
yeah.
Okay. Okay. So it's just so difficult, isn't it? And from your experience then, you've seen multiple children with selective mutism. Are there many different causes for this? Are you looking for a cause? How are you approaching this homeopathically?
Homeopathically, well, we are not looking at this symptom uh, in in itself.
No.
We are looking at the whole picture. But I can see that many of these children are on the autistic spectrum, or they are also neurodivergent. So they have a lot of symptoms from that lot. But
Mhm.
obviously, they have some individual symptoms that we are looking at. So we are looking at the situations when they get anxious, when where they are not talking, or when they are in this situation, if they are clinging to the parent, or they want to withdraw, they just want to escape from the situation, um, or or sometimes they are sensitive to noise or the environment, and that's why they get anxious. So it's not a social anxiety. And we are also looking at the ways they are communicate, because they try to connect. It's really interesting because they just don't want to speak. They for example, they feel anxious about their own voice.
Yes.
They don't want their voice to be heard. It's not about the words. Or my son didn't speak for a year when we moved to the UK.
Okay.
So that was also a situation that we could call
Of
selective mutism.
course. And you're living with that situation yourself and you've seen it firsthand then.
Yeah.
And so this was a case where he was talking fine in all situations, but that big move was really huge for him.
Yes. After that, I could see some traits. So he was having this issue back in Hungary as well, but I didn't realize that
Okay.
he was not talking. So he was not going to the corner shop because he was not talking to that person. But that was I only thought, it wasn't important because we solved it other way in other ways. But when he started not to talk at school, that became a huge problem for him and for all of us. So it had to be approached in a way.
Okay, so then you're understanding that the whole picture, it was there underlying, but wasn't brought up. And
Yeah.
so let's just have a look at how we collect that symptom picture then, because you've mentioned that we're looking at the other aspects of how they're reacting emotionally and perhaps physically as well. We're bringing all that together, and then we're seeing, okay, what needs to be addressed first. And so, would you say that usually you need to find something specific where the energy is, and then the talking gets better further down the road? Or how does it work?
Well, we're not targeting the speaking in itself. So we need to look at the whole picture. We need to look at their patterns, their sleeping, how they are eating, and we often, with small children, we often look at the pregnancy and the birth as well. So, and obviously, I'm observing the children, but the mother and the parents are the ones who are doing the observing work for me. And
Yeah.
then because I'm not seeing the child at school,
No.
I'm only seeing the child at the consultation. So that's only a small part of their behavior. And yeah, we are looking for emotional patterns. We are also looking at the physical symptoms, even if they are not important. They have a little eczema patch,
Mm.
which is not even itching, but we take a note because that would help us in the remedy choice.
Okay, so when we're first looking at this then, and we're looking at the whole picture, we're looking at how they're reacting to their environment in many different ways, what their tendencies are, what their habits are, what they like, what they dislike, how they sleep. And we take all of that information and effectively find a remedy. It might be a constitutional remedy or a miasmatic remedy if we're looking further back through the health history. And of course, you have said that quite often they might have some other neurodivergence as well that is brought into the packet. So what are we looking at really? Are we looking at months and months and months of homeopathic remedies? How quickly do we notice any change?
Ah, that's a good question. Because because and that's what all we want. Sometimes we see a really big change after the first remedy within a few days. You know,
Yeah,
we all experience that, but
yeah.
sometimes it's really hard work. There are blockages that we need to get through, and we see some improvement, but then it gets back to square one. You know, it's a whole process. It's like the what we say, the layers of the onion that we need to peel, and we need to peep behind the first layer to see what can we target next. It's a whole process, and an interesting, for me, it's an interesting journey.
Very interesting journey. And so when you start to begin to help a child in this way, are you expecting them to become less anxious and perhaps more confident over time?
Yes, definitely. So there are a lot of other symptoms of anxiety here. So they don't want to go to school. They have a stomach ache in the mornings, maybe. Uh, and and we would see these symptoms improving, and and as I said, it's not like talking from one day to another, but starting to whisper or starting to talk to someone, uh, choosing someone with whom they would feel more secure. And so it would go step by step, but we would see improvement in everything. Maybe the eczema patch would disappear as well.
It's fascinating, isn't it? I was very interested to hear that actually, quite often the children will learn sign language. So it's not that they don't want to communicate, it's that they really cannot communicate right now with everything that's going on emotionally.
And they can have many friends, and they can be funny, and they can be lovely at school. It's just about talking.
It's just about talking.
Okay.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Are there specific remedies that are indicated for this, just the talking element of it?
So, well, we are looking at a bunch of remedies when we talk about selective mutism, and we need to pick the ones, that are matching with the whole picture, with all their symptoms. Do you want me to mention some remedies?
Yeah, because it's such a fascinating topic that many of us don't come into contact with. So it would be really handy just to go away and have a look and see how they're described in the Materia Medica and to see how they relate to other symptoms as well.
So I would, um, I would look for the cause of the anxiety,
Okay.
uh, okay, or how they experience the anxiety. Uh, so I had a little boy who who had when they came to me, he didn't speak, and then he got a friend and started to whisper to him, and this friend moved schools. So he went back to square one. And then summer holidays came, and it was always losing the person who
Yeah,
he could speak to. And it was all about his grief, losing someone uh, that I felt secure with.
yeah,
And and he did really well on Natrum Muriaticum.
okay.
But it was a whole process. So
Yeah,
um, he got another dose when he felt more anxious, and then it solved a bit, but not all. So we had to work with other remedies, but
yes.
over time we got back to Natrum Muriaticum because of his deep grief. That was he always found the grief in other situations.
Okay. It's really interesting, isn't it? Because of course that makes perfect sense that as soon as it takes a long time for somebody to put their trust and their feel confident with somebody else, and then every time that happens, they have a separation.
Yeah.
And if that happens two or three times, it forms a habit. So then the body is kind of saying, well, I don't really want to invest that time because if I do this and we become friends, then I'm going to lose you.
Yeah. And also different situations. So they moved houses.
Yeah.
Change was a big thing for this child, but some other children have other issues, underlying issues. So we need to target that with another round.
Yes. Yeah. And we've explained how we're collecting a whole symptom picture to understand it. So what we're really saying is that the remedies are not specific to mutism or selective mutism or speech. They are remedies which express that whole picture in itself and
Yeah.
that bring together the underlying cause for the anxiousness and the reaction that they're having. Um, so obviously with the neurodivergence, there are lots of different elements that might be coming up. That certainly development issues that might be arising that
We are
leads.
looking at the development issues as well.
Okay,
And if they have if they are neurodivergent, they might have other symptoms that we can look at. They normally have a lot of symptoms actually because they have symptoms that we don't even think of, We are looking at habits like if they are eating butter with a spoon, A
yeah.
lot of children are doing that. And that's a symptom.
Yeah.
That's an imbalance.
Yeah, yeah, it's so, and that of course answers the question, doesn't it, of how do we get all of the information from a child that doesn't speak to us?
Yes.
And it's
So
about
the
those
parent.
observations. Okay,
A parent parents are doing the observations, and it's a very important role. Um so so when I'm working with the parent, obviously, and and we can go deeper if the parent is ready to go deeper, if they are observing the child from time to time. That's when I work really well. So I'm actually I prefer the parent to learn some homeopathy as well, and I'm trying to educate while I'm working with the parent because if the parent understands how I work, then it will become more effective.
Yes, of course, because also they're learning what to observe and what to record, aren't they? Let's talk for a moment about actually treating other members of the family as well. So maybe mother or father and maybe another sibling, because quite often that really helps us get to know that communication a little bit better, doesn't it?
Yes, so it's not only the communication, it's the family dynamics that I would like to understand. And in many cases, when I'm supporting the mother, uh, that can boost the child's well-being as well. Because, a mother went through a lot, pregnancy, childbirth, maybe they are in sleep deprivation, they have emotional issues. So there's an imbalance, and then the child has some problems. Sometimes the child is an indicator of the family dynamic imbalance, energetic imbalance. So the child has the symptoms, but the whole family is in imbalance. So I need to see the whole
Picture.
because we are looking at the whole
Yeah.
energetic um, state of the family, and it really helps to work with at least one other member in the family.
Yeah, yeah. I just find that we get so much more information when we understand it from the different points of view as well.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
but I'm loving the idea about actually educating parents as well on what to look for, how it works, what we're after, and then also being aware of how their communication affects other family members, because that's so important, isn't it?
Yes. Yes. So if they are not just coming to me and expecting a magic pill,
Yes.
but they want to get involved and work with me and go through this journey together, that is completely different, and it makes a big difference in their healing as well.
And of course, it's so useful if we've got behavioral issues with children, isn't it? Because the parent has done everything that they can with the information that they've got. And it's really looking for, okay, what else can I do now? And where can we go from here? I've run out of my options. I need
Yes. And
X.
also they are getting into this state. Did I do something wrong? Did I did I, completely messed it up?
Yeah.
Am I doing something wrong? So they are looking uh, for, they feel faulty in the whole process, but that's not the case. There's an imbalance, and they are reacting to the child's imbalance with guilt, for
Yes.
example, or anger, or so it becomes a spiral,
Yes.
actually.
We see that quite a lot, don't we?
Yeah.
Because parents are very, very hard on themselves for doing things that, but, I did this with my children and I didn't know that I had an option not to do it. And I didn't, and you think, well, yeah, actually, you did the very best that you could do with the information that you had at the time. You cannot beat yourself up about doing the best that you possibly can. Um, and so it really helps, doesn't it, to explain that and also give a remedy to help you overcome that feeling of guilt,
Yeah.
that feeling of
Yeah, our whole life is a learning journey, and homeopathy, working with the homeopath is also a learning journey, isn't
yeah,
it?
you're absolutely right. And actually each year, you learn something, you say, well, why didn't I know that when I was 24? You know,
Yeah.
And you wish how my life would have been different if I'd have known that. Now, why did I have to wait till I was this age? Um,
Exactly.
yeah, we spend a lot of time being really tough on ourselves.
Yeah.
What would you like parents to go away with from listening to this episode? What would you like them to be inspired by?
Hmm. I would like parents to observe uh, their own surroundings and their family and their child in a way, in a how would I say it? In a non-biased way.
Okay.
So um, just to see their patterns, because that's not an easy thing to do, to understand my child. Um, and see the patterns, and being able to do that, that's the first step uh, when you're trying to work with homeopathy or with a homeopath. That's what I think, and I really would encourage everyone to look at their children or themselves. That's also a good exercise, to look at myself and understand the way I am working. Am I get worse in a worse mood in the mornings or in the evenings? So we are just looking at patterns. And I think that's a useful thing to do for everyone.
I think you're absolutely right, and it makes learning homeopathy a lot easier. And also what I love about homeopathy is actually we actually can learn then to interpret what the symptoms mean, can't we? We know that if you've got a headache, it's not because you've got, a tumor in your head necessarily. It's because something else needs to change and your body's trying to tell you. And by looking at your symptoms and think, what is my body trying to tell me right now? What is my gut feeling about this? What are my thoughts? What's my sixth sense about all of this? We actually can start to understand our bodies a whole lot more, which of course gives us so much.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. So if I've got a headache after calling my mother-in-law all the time, that means that we might need to work on our relationship.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
that's what I mean
And
about observing.
yeah, absolutely, because that brings up so much, doesn't it? So we're not just looking at the physical symptoms that we can see, we're looking at what the physical symptoms are saying about the emotional.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
perfect. No, it's been lovely talking to you today. Thank you so much for coming in. I feel that this is just such a huge topic, and perhaps we ought to come back and really deep dive into more behavioural issues because there will be a lot of people who really want to find out more. Now, I'm thinking that we can link to some of your work. You've got blogs and webinars and things on your
Yeah.
website.
Yes. I've got blogs. Actually, I've got a blog on selective mutism as well.
Perfect. Okay. So we will put those links for people to find and so that they can find you and have a discussion with you if
Thank you.
this topic has been of real interest to them.
Thank you very much, and thank you for inviting me. It was a pleasure.
You're very, very welcome. I do hope you've enjoyed this week's episode. It's been just fascinating just learning about the interaction between your physical symptoms, your emotions, behavior, connections, and communications. If you found this interesting and would like to find out more, then this episode has been chosen for you, and you might well find it extremely useful. Take care.